Hi, everybody. It's just us. I'm Sandra Baskin. Sandy Gulliver is somewhere there in a box. And Daryl Anisfeld is in another box. And we welcome Joyce Porter, who is a Chicago actor, a good friend, lives in Oak Park, and has written a book. So we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to, someday I'll stop dropping my G's. We're going to take a more serious turn today. And we're going to talk about losing your spouse and being a widow from the widow aspect as opposed to the widower. Joyce is she's a pretty new widow, little less than 2 years ago. I am also a widow, but 15 years, so we'll have different perspectives, but we're going to listen to Joyce. And Joyce, welcome. Tell us about your book to start with, and then you can get into that part if you would.
Okay, thank you. My book is not published yet. This is, right now it's a manuscript. I have to figure out exactly how it's going to be published. And that's a bit of a challenge, but it's called The Opportunities and Challenges of Being a Senior. And it's in 3 parts. The first part is about things you can do when you're healthy. The second part is about problems you're going to encounter, possibly being a senior. And then the third deals with death and the aftermath and how do you adjust when you have lost someone, whether it be a spouse or not, but most especially a spouse, which I think is the greatest challenge because we all know that eventually we'll lose our parents, for example, but it's harder to lose a spouse, I think, because it's someone you're with every day.
I would agree with that if I could insert something here. People constantly said, I know how you feel. I lost my grandmother. I lost my mom. Those are tragic events, but nobody knows how it feels to lose a spouse until you lose one. And it suddenly dawned on me one day, Joyce, you could comment on any feelings you may have had similar. It dawned on me one day, one of the big reasons is nothing changed in your house, your own house, when you lost your parent or your grandparent. Everything changed in your house when you lost your spouse. So what are your feelings about that?
Oh, that's absolutely true, because if you're older, you are not going to be living with your parents. And if you've got a spouse, I mean, then there are some multi-generational houses.
True.
But in most cases, it's the two of you together. I mean, even if you do things, you go out, you do things on your own, which I've always done, fortunately. You come back to that person, you share that day's experiences. You're watching TV together, you turn to them and you say, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And all of a sudden, there's no one to turn to talk about that. I mean, even when Paul was in the nursing home, I was still seeing him every day and we'd talk about the news and so on and so forth. And to not have anyone to talk to is a big difference, to not be able to share things that, well, the majority of my life I was married to Paul.
Right.
39 years. And so I spent a lot more time being half of a pair than being alone. So
how about the silence?
Yes, the silence, turning on the radio, playing music helps.
Yeah.
It's not the same, but it does help. But sometimes it just feels so silent. Yeah, Sandy?
I can only imagine, because Dan used to go away fishing for about a week. And that time when he was gone, the air in the house felt like a vacuum. His energy fills the air, and when he's gone, it's so obvious that I can't have anybody to talk to, but it's stifling.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
And then when your husband dies, all of a sudden you're the one everyone's looking to. Where's the death certificate? Where's this? Where's the password? Where's your bank account? And you're crazy anyway, and now you're supposed to know all that stuff. Does your book cover that?
Yes. Yes, it says I cover how you need to prepare for things because you never know. I mean, it could be, and Paul would always say, well, after I'm gone, and sometimes I'd say, well, you never know. I could be crossing the street and hit by a car. And he was older than I was and had more health problems, so it was likely, but you never know for sure. And so one of the things I talk about is that you need to know those kinds of things. You need to have that information, share that information. And you should have a list, not only for your spouse, but what if, let's say something happened to both of you at the same time, like a car accident, you need to have something like on your computer that people can access. I've got a list just in case, and it's got all the insurance information and who my financial person is. And
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
The JIC stuff, right?
Yeah.
JIC stuff. Yeah.
What is that, Sandra? JIC? What did you say?
JIC, just in case.
Oh, just in case.
Yeah. And also not a bad idea to have it in print somewhere, because if you have your computer locked up or whatever, your family may not be able to get into it.
Right. I made sure that my son has my password to my computer. And
I never thought about. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I sent copies to my son and my brother, but I also gave them the password to the computer because I will update things on the computer. Maybe I closed a bank account or whatever the case may be. So they have maybe a little bit out of date.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
We have to change passwords every other day now. Dan printed out a list of all his passwords for me, and I printed out a list of all my passwords for him, and my file of passwords is about that many pages. His was only a couple pages.
I use Dashlane, that stores your passwords for you. But the password to open my computer never changes because nobody ever uses it except me. So there's no reason to change it, just to open the computer. Just print it up. And then the document is on there. So that's not a problem. But it's a huge adjustment. And the first few days after someone dies, you're so busy.
Yeah.
Things to do that I think it hits you more the second week than the first week.
So what are the things that you need to do the first week?
Well, like planning the funeral, burial service, changing bank accounts, notifying creditors, notifying Social Security, for example.
Got to go in there.
Well, that's where the death certificate comes in, because I just recently heard that sometimes you don't get the death certificate for about a month because the coroner has to sign it, and he does that when he can get to it. And right now, coroners are extra busy.
Yes.
But Sandy, doing it a month later there's tons of stuff to do, and it takes weeks and weeks. So a month later to go to Social Security, it actually is not a terrible delay.
Right. But figuring out, what are you going to do? Are you going to have a memorial service? Are you going to have a funeral? Who's going to handle it?
Yep, all that stuff.
The clergy, putting a death notice in the paper, contacting relatives to let them know what's happened and what the arrangements are going to be. Now, of course, today, right now, it's a Zoom link, but that wasn't always true. Though I think in the future, it will be a combination, because while people did fly in, there are people who, like my cousin in Hawaii, it was just too difficult to fly in for memorial luncheon. But you could also have a Zoom service or get together gathering in addition to the in-person, even after COVID. I think that's something that we've picked up.
Now that we're getting used to it, right. Joyce,
Right.
I have another question. Well, actually, a comment on what you just said. I think that that beginning 1 or 2 weeks is what saves our sanity because we're so busy, we haven't got time. But
Yes.
see what you think about this. After those couple of weeks, everybody's been around to help and call and send cards and everything. And guess what? About a month later, boom,
Mm-hmm.
here you are all alone. So I learned myself to wait and talk to people, make a call, whatever, even send a card 2 months later. We need people later on.
Yes. One of the things I put in there is the nicest thing you could do would be to ask someone over for dinner. Other than one friend and immediate family, nobody did that. If one person said, "Oh, you'll have to come over for dinner," I said that I would love that.
Yeah, thank you.
I never heard the date. And then 2 people did invite me. The weekend I was in Albuquerque to shoot Better Call Saul, and I can't do it this weekend. Please let me know. Another day, never heard from them again. So that would be so nice to be in somebody's home and have a dinner with someone. And of course, the person can always say no. If you ask, is this something you'd like to do? One thing that has helped a lot is Facebook.
Yeah.
Contacting, expressing myself, being able to say what's going on. I mean, even when Paul was ill, he had West Nile virus, by the way. Even during his illness and afterwards and everything, feeling that like there's a community of support on Facebook, I think has been very helpful.
Huge. Yeah.
And Zooming with family and friends has been very helpful. But yeah, there was this moment after, as you say, after things had died down and I wasn't so busy, where I sat down and I realized I feel untethered.
Yep.
Untethered. It's like, what's my connection? No one's depending on me. I don't have a job. I mean, acting is very occasional, but I don't have a regular job. And so what do I have in the way of routine in my life and connections? And I actually could go and do anything, but do I want to do anything by myself? So it was a kind of funny feeling of not having those connections that have rooted you all your life, that you always had to do. And to not have anything to do, I know a lot of people would envy, but it makes you feel a little adrift.
Joyce, did anybody suggest grief group to you?
Yes, I should mention that I actually did join a grief group.
Me too.
A while to find one, and that's helpful. If you're looking for a grief group, sources could be churches, hospitals,
Yeah.
health centers.
Yep.
And actually, I contacted my rabbi and I said, "Is there a grief group that I haven't heard about?" And he said, "No, but we were considering it." You know what? We'll do it.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So they did. And there were something like 7 people in the group.
Mm-hmm.
5 of us are still getting together.
Oh, I love it.
That's nice.
Yes. We found we have a lot in common,
Yep.
so much in common. And we were getting together in a park during COVID.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that on Facebook. Yeah.
And now we switched to Zoom. And then hopefully by summer, we'll be able to get together in person.
Oh, yeah, I hope.
Yeah.
It was suggested to me as well. And first couple ones I went to were not just widows and widowers. So I wasn't finding what I thought I should be finding. I finally went to one of those and I knew I was home the minute I walked in the door because there were widows, widowers, and everybody was crying.
Did you hear that sound?
I was home.
You need to find out something about the group if you're considering a group. I tried one out. I went one night and there was one person there talking about how terrible she felt because she lost her cat.
It doesn't work. Yeah, that's heartbreaking, believe me, but that doesn't work.
I know, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Did you hear that sound?
Yes.
Yes.
That meant we have 5 minutes left, so
Oh.
it's time to start winding down. Now, Joyce, how far are you along in getting your book? Are you actually?
I have written the first draft. It's
Uh-huh.
being looked at by a couple people, like my brother's looking at who's a doctor, is looking at the medical stuff, et cetera. And then I've got to figure out, how do I do the layout? How do I get it published, et cetera. If anyone has comments, suggestions, or questions, they can email me at joycekporter@yahoo.com. It's going to be my dedicated email for the book.
Joyce Porter at yahoo.com.
K like kitten, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
So in the meantime, before Joyce's book comes out, your task is to start making a list of all your passwords,
yeah,
bank account numbers, and all that sort of stuff. So somebody comes in and you, hopefully not you, but somebody will come in and say, okay, she made it so easy for me.
yeah.
And
One
make
more
sure they have the key
Go
to your,
ahead, Joyce. Sorry.
make sure they have the key to your house.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It's a lot of things to think about.
Yeah. And any animals that you might have.
Yeah. Who's going to take care of your,
Yeah, I've got a page on if someone who lived alone dies, what do you need to do? You need to think about, there's someone you feel responsible for who lives by themselves. And the number one thing is think about if they have pets.
oh, yeah. One more thing.
Yeah.
Someone gave me, well, a very good friend, if you can see that, gave me this book. We'll put it on our page. It's called Good Grief. It's a teeny little book. You can see it was the most helpful thing in the beginning. And Joyce, if anybody's sending us messages with questions and so forth, we'll get to you. Anybody wants to ask more questions, double check her. Yeah, you're sweet.
This is a nice gift from someone. I can't think, I had so much on my mind. I can't think who gave it to me, but this was a frame about loved one, and you just insert the photo.
Mhm.
And that was a thoughtful gift that someone gave me.
Boy, indeed. Lovely photo too.
Yeah, isn't it? Thank you. That was from David's wedding. Thank God Paul was around for that and loved and enjoyed it, and lived long enough to find out that he was going to be a grandfather.
Oh, that's even
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Well, I lost when my husband left and someone gave me this book after finding out how good it was, how helpful. Every time I have a friend who loses their husband, I pass it on, or vice versa. And they bring it back to me and I keep passing it on.
Well, I have to see if I can find it online or something.
I'll send you an email. Sandy, how's our time? Are we just about ready to say?
Yeah, we got maybe a minute left,
Well,
maybe a minute left. So just enough time to say goodbye and check our Facebook page for the episode, and also any links to the book that Sandra was just showing, and if you are a publisher and interested in publishing Joyce's book,
yep.
find
Let
us
her
there too.
know.
Facebook page is just us with Sandra
Thanks.
Baskin, Daryl Annisfeld, and Sandy Gulliver.
Thanks for the interest.
Thank you so much for joining us, Joyce. And
Empowered a lot of people. So it's wonderful that you've been able to give them that kind of information, because it's from your heart too. And that's wonderful.
for sure. Yeah.
Yes. I felt like I was on a mission when I was writing it.
Uh-huh.
At 14 point, which is large, it's 300 pages.
You were on a mission, a wonderful, helpful mission, like Daryl just said. Okay, everybody, we have to wind it up.
Bye.
Sorry,
Bye,
Sandy,
everyone.
what was the last thing you said, Sandy?
He said it's going to be my guidebook as soon as it's published.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you've got two close buddies. You know what? We'll talk to you later next week.
We can talk all day about this, for sure. Okay.
For us Wednesday afternoons live, a little afternoon.
All right.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.